hear John? How can we still hear him?
20, 19, 18,
You can hear him.
17, 16, 15, 14, 13.
Why can't you hear me?
12.
Or can you hear me?
11. I can hear you. 10.
Stop talking.
9, 8,
Can they always hear us during
6,
this?
5,
Why?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ID Club. I don't know if anybody could hear us during that countdown. That was new. Though, Jack, you and I never talk during the countdown.
I thought it muted our mics. I didn't know we could talk during that.
Yeah, John was doing an entire countdown. Welcome in. It is a Wang Nachos Husker Games Draft as we kick off the ID Club Summer Tour, and we are so happy to have on two of our favorite guests, Mike Schaefer and my co-host, and Jack's former co-host, John Bishop. Schaefer, John, hello, how are you?
Howdy.
Hello.
All right.
This is why they're the best. This is why we got them.
This is what
This is
you
why
pay
they're
for.
the best.
This is
Right?
what you
This
pay
is the
for.
magic from Wang
I'm
Nachos.
saving all my words for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Can't exert too much energy.
Yeah, we appreciate
I was
you
just
two,
purposely being weird. I have no excuse.
Oh, purposely. Okay.
Yeah, I was
Good.
just purposely being weird. So.
Well, in all seriousness, we appreciate you guys joining us. We have a lot of stuff planned for the summer, and we wanted to kick it off with you two as we go through Husker history back to, at the very least, 1973. And we drafted.
And there was only one of us in this room alive then,
yeah.
but we don't remember it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the strategy that we all have for this draft. My first year of watching Husker football was 1997. So if I really want to go with just what I've seen, I only have one season to deal with. I'm not going to do that. My list for Tom Osborne goes back before that. And then we're going to go coach by coach by coach. You guys have been on my show over the last week, and I co-host the show with John. What do we want to set the ground rules, parameters before we get this thing going?
That's what I mean. I don't even know what the rules are exactly.
It's your show.
I was
It's like Bob Barker not knowing the rules of the
Josh's idea. So.
the cliffhangers game.
By the way, amazing lighting tonight, John. Very.
Yeah, it is.
Very
It's
good.
it's not the best, but you know, I like
I think it's great. It's fine for what we're doing.
the fact that we're doing a Husker draft and the Blue Jay logo is illuminated behind me. I know is
Maybe just keep it dark.
It's mostly covered up, which I support.
there you go. Yeah.
So here's what we're doing. We are going to go back to the Tom Osborne era, and I will I'll put the draft order up here. I guess our faces. We're going to do the draft order in a second.
Faces.
We are going to be picking one game each from the Tom Osborne, Frank Solich, Bill Callahan, Bo Pelini, Mike Riley, Scott Frost, and Matt Rhule eras. The goal is to just pick a game that you like, and then at the end, voters can tell us which group of teams or games rather that they think is the best here. I do have a randomizer that I will click in just a moment that will give us our draft order.
Question.
We're going to do snake order. What's the question?
Do we have to go coach by coach by coach?
No,
No.
we do not.
Okay,
You
so
do
we
it
can pick any
whatever
coach
order.
anytime. Okay, good.
Strategy.
Good. That would have thrown off my entire game plan.
Turn your mic down a little, John. Good.
Okay, I'm
Lord.
sorry. Well,
Jeez, many freaking audio, video. Is it your first time with technology?
no, this mic is a little touchy. It's a
Oh,
little
really?
touchy. There's weird settings that go
Yeah,
on.
but
Josh
I
knows
don't-
all about my computer and its foibles. Is this
No,
better?
I heard about that today.
Is this better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So we'll be doing snake draft style. So at the turn, you'll give two picks for us as we roll on through. And when we pick them, we'll discuss them. We're not just going to rip through this thing in 5 seconds. We'll pick these games, maybe tell some memories, tell some stories, etc.
Is it a snake draft? How are we getting the order? What's happening with that? Is it in
I
the
just
order on
said-
the screen?
He just said
that,
it.
or just said. Good to see that you're paying attention.
Not at all. I was
Have
reading
you-
the chat.
have
I
you
was.
considered? Could we do an auction? We have an
Oh.
imaginary amount of money, and then we just bid randomly on these.
Every game ever.
$1 billion. I would like, please.
1987 Northern Illinois. Do I hear?
So I just clicked the randomizer. John, you're not going to be able to see this because you're not on our Discord. Shafe, I have no idea if you're logged into the Discord right now, but I just did the randomizer and I posted it in the Discord for everybody to see. So up first in tonight's Husker Games draft is going to be John. Then it will be me, so the Grum kicks us off.
Oh, jeez.
Then it will be Jack, and then Shafe, you will hit us at the turn, and we'll
Double
go all
dip.
the way back. And then John will do the same thing.
Awesome.
We'll be drafting 32 total games tonight, 28 total games
I have
tonight.
I think there's a clear
7
number
times
one.
4.
I'm
Yeah,
really pissed I didn't get one.
I'm happy I wasn't number one because I couldn't figure out.
I had
there is
different
a
number one.
clear Christian McCaffrey number one.
Oh yes,
situation
there's
here.
absolutely a clear number one. But I had different
Sounds
strategies
like an old
based on.
thing.
I had a different strategy based on where I might be picking. But the fact that I'm picking first, this is. I mean, there are 2 games.
Okay.
Two games.
I have a clarification before
Yes.
John kicks this down.
Yes.
I don't know what was funny about that. I'm just trying to. I want to make
Please.
sure that we're all on the same page here.
Go
Fair.
ahead.
Good questions. Good questions.
Now, where it says Matt Rhule, we have the last 2 seasons. Where it says Scott Frost, what I'm wondering is there room? If you were just someone who was delighted, and I think there was at least one person out of the 4 of us that was absolutely delighted when Nebraska beat Indiana in 2022, and you really wanted to pick the Mickey Joseph era or something like that. Could we just say that the interim coaches of Mickey Joseph and Barney Cotton, long time forgotten about interim coach Barney
Yes.
Cotton, you wanted to pick the 2014 Holiday Bowl. Could those go under the Matt Rhule column?
Oh, that's an interesting
To-
question.
I would
flesh it
say
out a little
yes.
bit?
I would say yes. I mean, it was they kept it's not like they cut the whole team and got rid of all the assistant coaches. I mean,
So you're wanting to know if the
unless you want to
Mickey
leave those games out entirely.
I'm literally wasting everyone's time because
Wait,
no
wait.
one's picking
No,
the
I
Indiana
did
game.
wonder if I could use Scott Frost picks on Mickey Joseph games.
Yeah, my bad. I put Scott Frost's name up there instead of Mickey Joseph's name up there. I definitely made a
No, I
mistake.
just didn't know if you could use it's his year.
This has already worked how I planned it. This is
Great work, Schaefer. John, why don't
Yeah.
you get back to your soliloquy that you were about to
All right.
bequeath us with?
All
I'll shut
right,
up now.
there are
I
2.
think the question still remains. The question.
Yeah,
is
the
open
question
for-
does still remain because that may change my
It
strategy.
makes
a
it
bit.
better.
Well,
I think
hey,
it actually
and Adam
does.
does say, legit question, are they picking favorite games? Is there a theme? It's kind of whatever. It's vibes. We're picking the
So-
games that we want for each of these coaches.
Yeah.
Basically, we're gonna put these on a list at the end, and we're gonna vote who has the best team of games.
Right.
So we're going for. I mean, you're going for the voters, is what you're
Yep.
going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
John, I think we are finally ready.
2 games in the history of Nebraska football. There's the God tier game. That's the game of the century. That doesn't count in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
Game number 2 is the Jesus tier, and that's my first pick. 1995 Orange Bowl. No question about it.
With
Best-
this, do you
best,
mean
most-
the '94 season?
Yes, Jack. Yes,
mean
Jack.
when
This
the
would be-
game was
Yes,
played.
this was the 1995 Orange Bowl, but it was the
The
fact that that is a
1994
thing.
season.
This is
So-
the best.
So Florida or Miami? I
This
guess
is Miami. They never played Florida in an
that's-
Orange Bowl.
So for most of us,
Yeah,
the
that was
94,
the Fiesta Bowl.
right? He's talking about the '94 Orange Bowl.
the
Okay, got it.
95 Orange
The
Bowl. but-
'94 Orange Bowl. Got
Yes.
it. Okay.
The one where what was the famous line, Josh? Collinsworth. You say
Smile,
it all.
Tom.
Thank you.
Smile,
But seriously,
Tom.
this is the it's the most important game in Tom Osborne's career. It's the perfect game. If
Yep.
Vince McMahon, this is like pre-sexual assault Vince McMahon, could
But
script
features
out
Dwayne Johnson.
could script out a football game,
Yep.
this is what he would have scripted because it was the perfect way for Tom Osborne to finally win a title because it was like a synopsis of his entire season. I mean, the falling behind, coming back, falling behind, it's just a tremendous game. It's one of the memories I ever have of watching any football game ever. I still remember because Kugler was at the house. This is when we were living in the South Bottoms or North Bottoms, whatever they call it. And it was like, what was it, Jack? It was like 5 below that night.
It was freezing.
It was freezing cold. We got so worked up and so hot in the first half. We went outside, no coats, and we just stood outside and talked for 10 minutes in the sub-zero temperatures, and it didn't affect us at all. We needed to cool off. Just a tremendous game. This is the most worthy number 1 pick we could have in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to argue with it, right? The only thing, John, that I wondered if you would do, even though it's not a national championship game or even season, was and I guess maybe we shouldn't step on things, but the 78 Oklahoma game was one that I was wondering if it was going to be on your mind, just given that you actually.
Oh, it's on my list. Yeah, absolutely, it's on my list. I guess the only thing about that is it happened so long ago, and I do remember it. I do remember the tornado sirens going off in Fremont after they won.
That's awesome.
Because people were so excited. But this is the game. This is the game. I mean, it is. It's just a perfect game. It is absolutely a perfect game. I enjoy it. I don't watch.
It's a fun rewatch.
I don't rewatch a lot of. I only really rewatch 2 games. I rewatched the game of the century. I rewatched this one because it was such a good game.
Yeah.
On the chat, Adam says, "Just some bros getting hot."
They were.
It was a toasty. It was a toasty house. Jack.
How did that? Do you guys have a thermostat you could turn down, or what was the situation?
I don't know. I don't know why it got that warm in there, but probably from all the yelling and pacing, and that was the first game I remember pacing.
Really, getting your steps in.
Yeah, getting my steps in. I don't think I got 10,000 steps in like I did for that Cubs playoff game, but
the
I got a lot
origin
of steps
story of the John Bishop pacing goes back to the 1994 season, 95 Orange Bowl.
It does.
Wow.
It does. But I didn't have a Fitbit to keep track of my
Marvel
steps.
would really dress that one up.
Yeah, they probably would.
So I'm up. Oh, you have one more thing, Jack?
Well, no, I would say if we were doing this, without strategy, in terms of all of these games, my favorite, this would be my number one.
This is your number one?
My number one favorite. The fact that you were sure they were going to lose, it looked like they were going to lose. It was kind of just the reverse of what always happens to Nebraska now, basically, in this game. Everything went right at the end. It was there's no way you're going to beat this game for me out of all these games. So good pick first for John.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe
it is a classic game. I'm going to go. I actually had a different one written down. I had made the graphic, and I'm going to change it and do something because of what you just said, Jack, for my first overall pick. I was going to go with what maybe I thought was the better or more important game, and instead I will go with my first favorite Nebraska game, and that is the 1997 Missouri win in Columbia, one of the early ESPN immediate classic games. I still remember the entire fourth quarter. I remember the overtime. I've told the story before on the radio. I've watched the game with my family, and my youngest brother, 2-year-old Luke, started crying as we all were jumping and cheering because he didn't understand what was happening. This is not a championship game. I understand that I'm going away from the championship picks, but this is my first favorite game, and it is my favorite game of all time. So
it's the first
97
time.
Missouri.
It's the first time I could remember Nebraska having to like executing a 2-minute drill at the end of a game that they had to execute and actually did it because they were never in that spot.
Or I'd never really seen it before.
They'd never seen it before. And if you squinted and got past the goofy discus shot put throwing style, you could almost see number 7 as John Elway, not Scott Frost. And the story behind this one for me was, I was at the station, so we were running the game, at the station, and the people were running around and jumping up so much it woke up the engineer down in the basement because the dust was falling in.
Why was the engineer sleeping in the basement, which is a bigger
Saturday
question.
evening?
because
did he live there?
Because that's what Bill Sire did back in those days.
Oh boy. Honestly, it would be one of the least weird things that engineers have done that I've seen there. Anyhow,
I have one of those. I don't remember what the exact terminology is for it, but it's like a memory that you have that you're not entirely sure whether it's real or not, and you're not. And so it's related around this game, and I feel very strongly. What is that called? The Mandela effect? Is that the?
Yeah, that's right.
Whether it's true or not, yeah.
I have this very vivid memory of this game. My dad famously, just like whenever it was close and late, just gave up on Nebraska every time, and he was smoking at this point in his life.
In 97?
Even in 97.
Things have been fairly good. I mean,
no kidding. The 96 season did a number on him, Jack.
Those 3 losses in 5 years were too much for him.
Look, it's he had to wear it at the end of his life with the everything leading up to the 2022 season there.
Yeah.
But so it's 1997. My dad, brother, and I are all watching this game down in the basement. He's furious. He's leaving. He doesn't believe Nebraska's coming back. So he goes to the garage and he's chain smoking in the garage because that's what he does. That's what I assumed all adults did when things weren't going well. And Nebraska ties the game up. My brother and I are watching it downstairs. We're going nuts. And I'm like, oh, God, I got to go get our dad. And so I go out and I go get him, and he comes back downstairs. And what I'm getting to is this. Does anyone else remember? And I think it was ABC that was broadcasting the game.
I know what
they were late coming back to overtime.
Yes.
Yep.
And so my dad, who missed the final sequence of events, who didn't see the flea kicker, who has no idea the improbable nature that occurred for this game to happen, launches a profanity-laced tirade at ABC for being late getting back to the action that he didn't even know existed until his son went up and pulled him from the garage where he was smoking just stress heaters because Nebraska was potentially going to lose to Missouri. It is one of those all-time you wish that you had, like, CCTV film. Like, I would love to be able to watch that.
Oh, my God.
To just, like, live in that moment over and over, because I just remember looking at my brother like, this crazy person didn't even know the game was going on, and now he is just losing it because got
they're
back
late
late.
for commercial.
Now they're already inside the 10-yard line. Like Nebraska's already inside the 10 and then scored like a play or two later.
Yeah.
And then obviously finished things out defensively in that overtime period. But I feel like people have pushed back against that when I brought that up before.
No,
you guys
you're right.
No, it was Nebraska's first possession in overtime after the kick, right? After the
because Nebraska got the ball first.
Yeah, because overtime was still fairly new then, and
that was
Nebraska's
first ever overtime game.
Right.
They hadn't yet figured out the timing, right, on TV for how long of a break you take between regulation and overtime, and they're still doing the thing where they put the rules up, right?
Even if you go back and watch that on YouTube, like there's like a pretty solid broadcast, and even that one, they're coming back as the snap.
They came back on the touchdown, right? Like as the touchdown was happening, as I recall.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Was it only 2 plays? I don't remember now.
I believe it was just a 2-play drive. Yeah.
Yeah, they came back as the second play was starting, as I recall it.
Plus, like one of the other things too about this game, before we get to your pick, Jack, is like it just looks like a college football Saturday. It's one of those classic starts in the sun.
Well, remember, this was a huge day because Penn State was playing Michigan.
Florida State played North Carolina that night. That was one of those
Dre Bly,
Saturdays.
Mac Brown.
Yes.
Yep.
God, what a great game. 1997.
I'm sure Nebraska recruited Dre Bly's kid at some point, like in the last.
I know. I was so excited too. Dre Bly, I thought was awesome.
D'Lo says Warren Swain didn't miss it. He probably thought it was 4th down, though.
There's a story, though, about that says, Swain, he blew the call, and I turned the radio off, and I didn't know they won.
Yeah, somebody said that on the show recently, John. It's like
there is no way that's true because he does catch himself. It's not like it was like 10 seconds of confusion. It was incomplete. And then Fiala goes, touchdown.
Touchdown. He caught it.
Yeah.
As Warren Swain has shown us, play-by-play guys from the outside always work. Anyway, after that game was over, I was in college, my dorm. I took my shirt off. I ran up and down the hallway, screaming at everyone who had taunted me because all the Iowa dorks thought this was my comeuppance moment, and it was not. It was not. I came in. I was the worst. Can you guys imagine how terrible I was in college?
No,
Can
there's
you
no
even
way.
imagine how terrible I was in college? Like with a bunch of fans of an inferior teams that are all around me. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And that night, I was the worst. You heard it from me. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, Jack, your pick, your first one of the first round. Are you sticking with Osborne, or are you going to finally go to a different coach?
No, I'm using the strategy people should be using. I mean, I love those games, but I would have never picked them in the first round. They shouldn't be first round picks.
What?
I will pick, because of the overall goal of my roster, I will pick the 2024 matchup between Nebraska and Colorado that Matt Rhule won. If you guys don't remember this game, it was about 7 months ago, and Nebraska beat Colorado. Tommy Hill had a pick 6 in the game. Some might forget that. Shedeur Sanders, the guy who eventually won the Heisman, Travis Hunter, was on the Colorado team.
Oh,
Deion
interesting.
Sanders was the coach. Nebraska got way ahead of them in the first half, including a goofy-ass tipped pass that made me think all of the sadness was coming to an end.
Groin kick era was over.
Yeah, I thought the groin kick era was over when Ramir Johnson scored, and it turns out that after that moment, it just picked right back up. The second half was very boring, but
Yes.
this is a value pick because there is no close number 2 in the Matt Rhule category, and so I don't really.
I mean, we'll find out. Let's see how the draft unfolds. But now I can save that one for like the 6th or 7th round.
What in the hell else do you
I
even
wrote
know?
down multiple Matt Rhule games, Jack. I got.
I mean,
multiple
I did
games on
too,
my,
but the
on my
distance
sheet.
between 1 and 2, I would argue for Matt Rhule is bigger than any of these other ones. 1 is way different than 2. It's not even close. If anybody argues that, I'll be shocked.
Maybe.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. See what happens.
Do you guys remember this game?
Yeah, it was awesome. I watched it at a hotel room in Minneapolis,
sec-
Minnesota.
Yeah, second half totally took me out of it. I thought this isn't even college football anymore. It's terrible.
Can you imagine picking it first in a Husker Games
The
draft?
second half was.
That's what you said, Sean.
Yes, I believe I did say
Josh
that.
can confirm. I was weirdly in a crabby mood about the second half, despite it all going well. It was
The
just-
high point of the ID Club so far, Jack, is our halftime show.
Oh god, we did a halftime show and it was goofy.
It was 20 minutes of
It was
orgasming from
goofy.
Jack.
Yep, pretty much.
Shafe, do we have any thoughts on Colorado, or are we just moving on pretty fast, it seems, from this one?
I knew exactly what Jack was getting at when he said what he did about why he wouldn't have taken those games 1 and 2. The thing is, for me, with this whole thing that we're doing, I'm picking the games that stand out the most to me. And so I'm playing like if that lines up with how people want to vote, that's perfectly great. I also, if I had the option to take 2024 Colorado as my Matt Rhule game, absolutely would. But I think there's some other options in there that,
Did I
you
miss
go
some of
them.
his games? Were there games?
No,
I
they've been the
missed?
last 2 years.
Yeah, I think I saw them all, but now I'm wondering. Okay,
They've won 12 of them, if you think about it.
doesn't seem like that many, but okay.
Yeah, there's some options in there. So you can pick from any of the 12. You can pick a loss. You can pick your favorite groin kick, maybe.
Hey, I did
Maybe
write
that's
down
how
some
you wanted to go
losses.
about it.
My draft board has some losses.
Why?
I mean,
why would we
That
get to
Iowa
losses?
game was pretty entertaining until Johnson broke that fluky long screen pass.
Oh God.
I mean, everybody wants to relive that Maryland game from 2020.
I mean, if we're having,
God.
I mean, that's
Hey, this
among
is
the
a tease
worst-
for the Groin Kick Chronicles. Let's stay tuned to everybody.
Okay.
Stay
Okay.
tuned to everybody.
Okay, so the problem I have, and especially when I ended up 4th, and I kind of knew I had a guess as to what would be coming off the board, is like, where do you try to zero into, if you're trying to grab value, if you're trying to stack the best roster of games, or is there a certain era? And I think Jack did this really well, where you just take what seems like the obvious pick for the Matt Rhule era. And I'm just kind of looking through it, and I decided I landed on, like, it's the games that matter to me, either the stories that are behind them or the moments that they led to or anything along those lines. And so I will start off pick number 4.
Okay.
And we are going to go to my absolute favorite game that I have been to as a media member for a variety of reasons. My
know what
favorite
this
game
is.
would be Bo Pelini era.
Yeah.
My favorite game
Damn it!
on the road.
I know what it is. Damn
My
it!
favorite game that encapsulates Taylor Martinez's career. And we're going to go to East Lansing in 2012 for the 2012 Michigan State game. And I understand, look, the Bo Pelini era, there are a lot of actually fantastic games to pick.
There are.
Like, you could do a draft of that era.
There's some
because
pretty
there's
good ones in
really,
there, yeah.
Really
Dude,
interesting.
in non Tom Osborne games, I actually wrote down the most from the Bo era on my short
I had
list.
one
It
for
is
every year
loaded.
of his. The only year where I really struggled to come up with a game would have been like the 2008, and I wrote down like the Clemson, the Gator Bowl
I would have
for
said
that one.
Kansas
But-
maybe for that one, yeah.
Sure. But the 2012 Michigan State game, was the most hungover I've ever entered a press box. Like, I was in bad shape. We got to East Lansing. There was a bar called Crunchies. They served alcohol out of those like janitor buckets that you would see at a school. And then they gave you little Dixie cups to serve yourself out of that. And so I was down in a lot of Labatt Blue. And it was and Molson's and whatever else was
cheers to the Canadian beer.
Poured into that janitor
Michigan
bucket.
or Toronto? What was happening there?
Hey, it's pretty close.
It's close.
It might as well have been one or the other. So, it is a super, super memorable game for how it started, how it finished. But for me, the vantage point of Jamal Turner's touchdown will never be topped as I watched him catch it. And then I had to make the decision, and anybody can pull this up if they go back and watch it.
I'm trying to as we speak.
I'm staring pretty much like 5 to 7 yards away from Jamal Turner running directly at me full speed after catching this ball and having to make the decision, do I want to be a viral moment on television everywhere and just get truck sticked and not be able to remember any of this? Or should I just slide out of the way here? And I slid out of the way, but I go back and forth. I feel like maybe I should have just allowed myself to be knocked out and live in that moment forever. But that was just a fantastic game. It's my favorite Taylor Martinez game. The run that he had where he fakes a toss and then he just houses it for a touchdown. I thought that was as fast as he's ever looked after 2010.
Mike, can you identify yourself on this?
Yeah, I am in a brown quarter zip with somewhat shaggy, unkept hair. Sean Callahan is standing directly in front of me.
Okay, so you're right.
Are you hiding behind Sean?
No, I think I had started moving.
I definitely know who Sean is from behind.
Yeah.
Should I advance it a second here? All right.
So Shane's
okay,
the
there.
Yeah, Shane's the one.
You got your hands on Sean's back.
Yes.
I'm moving him out of the way.
Look at that.
I'm saving him.
Look, you're saving him. You're
Mike
pushing
Schaefer,
him.
hero.
Mike Schaefer tried to kill Sean Callahan during this game.
He's doing
Amazing.
the
Look at that.
Imagine how this would have changed the course of Husker online media
You think
history.
On 3 would have existed if I would have pulled him and thrown him left directly into Jamal?
Look at that. Two hands in the back.
No local media members would have tweeted
Nebraska
about the
fans-
Pope.
What would Nebraska fans be mad at Ari Wasserman right now? We'll never know.
Oh, God. These are great questions, Shafe.
We will never know.
Sean Callahan injured at football game. Retweet, quote tweet. Sean Callahan injured at football game.
That's great.
Seriously, my all-time favorite game ever covered. Like I said, nursed the hangover, had to get through it. I wasn't even the media member who had the roughest Friday into Saturday. Someone that won't be named ended up with scrapes and cuts all over their face because they biffed it really hard while walking home through a gravel parking lot.
Oh boy.
So it was rough for the Nebraska media contingent, but we were treated to one hell of a game.
That
Just
game
an
was
all-timer.
By the way, Shafe, we are doing a Be Kind at some point for this if you want to
That is
join us for the ride.
I love it. Put me in on that. I want in on that.
By the way, this was my number 2 Bo Pelini game. So
Number 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I had no idea where people were going to rank this.
I
love this game.
The end of it was so shocking that they pulled it out and won it, just given so many things. And, it's still has there really been, they had this in the Northwestern game with a field goal at the end, or the Ben Cotton touchdown at the end, right? The Northwestern game of that same year, right?
Yeah.
Ben Cotton scores a
field
touchdown
goal
at the end. But those are the last 2 games where Nebraska's scored a touchdown in the last minute to win it, right?
Well, the Hail Mary came a year later.
No, Purdue. Mike Riley's last win.
Yeah, you're going to hear about
Spoiler
that
alert.
from me
Yeah, I was going
later.
to say. That's going to be on Jack's list.
I love that. Mike, I think it's a great pick.
That's
it's
a good
way
pick.
up there for me, too, even though there's probably other ones that people will think of. So,
Shafe, what do you got next?
I debated just because there's a lot of other games I could go with here. There's a lot of ones that kind of stand out because this is middle school Mike Schaefer. But I feel like this was the biggest regular season game for me growing up. And we had watched Oklahoma trounce Nebraska the year before.
Yeah.
And, it's still maybe one of the I don't know if I don't know how low you can count on it. Like can you go lower than 3 in the last 40 years in terms of legendary plays with the throwback pass stunts to Crouch?
It's probably the most legendary play in the stadium history.
Yes, it seems that way. And so I think I got to go 2001 Nebraska, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Great
huge,
pick.
Huge game.
Yeah.
And there's other games that I hope someone takes it. There's another one I really thought about for Solich, but I want to go ahead and get on the board with that one because there's such a strong. I remember being at a friend's house for watching that game. They had a pizzazz. I had never seen a pizzazz before, and so that was like, you guys know what a pizzazz is? A pizza maker.
Oh, the pizza maker. Yeah.
Jack has no idea. So it's a pizza maker that it just spins
like
and does a laser.
Yeah,
it just lasers a pizza, and you can
it's almost like a turntable. Like a record player.
It seems wild to me, but they make really good pizzas. So shout out Pizzazz.
So does the oven. Who cares?
Well, yeah. Look, sometimes you change things up.
This is Schaefer. You could say, like John and Jack, John's a little bit older, but their generation has so many memorable games. Like someone in our age group, and we were a few years apart. You were 05, if I remember right. I was 07 from high school. Like this is
2006, 01. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is our, prime middle school years. This is truly the last great Husker moment, I would say. Like on the level of what John and Jack got to have throughout their lives, 2001 Oklahoma is the last one, in my opinion. And so it's the last one that our generation got. And, if you're just a little bit younger than us, maybe you remember it too. My dad was at this game, and he was in North Stadium, and he always tells the story of just like it's one of those perfect, he saw everything unfolding, and he's like, what's going on with this motion? And, of course, the pass is – Jack has the best story about this game, which he's told a bunch. But, he knew about it, going into this weekend. But it's one of those, again, sitting in my living room on Ida Street, watching it with my brother, watching it with my mom, and, on a perfect fall Saturday for a football game.
Yeah, I tell everyone the story. I knew the play. I knew the Crouch. I knew the stunts to Crouch play was coming, literally.
So cool.
My buddy's brother was on the team, actually had a pretty good game in that game. And he told his brother that they were going to run that play. And, we didn't believe him. We gave him a bunch of shit at the time. We were like, there's no way they're going to do that. That sounds made up. And then as we're sitting there with him in the stands, they bring Mike Stunts in on one play. And we're like, oh my gosh, they are going to do it. They're setting it up. And so I don't remember I don't know if there were 2 or 3 plays. Stunts came in for the first time on one of the plays as a decoy, so they started to think it was normal to bring him in. We all knew it was coming, though. My entire section that I was with, and it didn't make it any worse. The fact that we knew it was coming, and it worked. It was crazy. I told everybody.
My immediate reaction was, who the heck is Mike Stunts? For as much as I followed Nebraska, I certainly didn't go all the way down the roster and know every player or have a reason to know every player. And so I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And
so
he was at Council Bluffs. On the Tommy Lee show.
He's Council Bluffs guy.
They brought him
an orthodontist.
They brought him and Mike McLaughlin in the same year. McLaughlin was at Miller North, I believe, and Stunts was at Council Bluffs, and they were kind of both maybe going to be the Eric Crouch heir apparent. And so I knew who he was too when that happened, but it was crazy.
Corey says, my favorite memory in stadium with my dad. He wasn't much of a hugger, but we hugged like crazy after that catch, and we're screaming our heads off. I'll never forget it.
That play ripped my pants.
Me too.
Because I was on the Nebraska sideline, and so when Crouch is running, he's running right in front of us, and Grant Wistrom was there. He was in town.
Can we see you in the video?
There's so many people on the sidelines. That's one thing this was back in the era when I would be on the sidelines, and there were so many people down there. But I just remember, we all got up and were jumping, and then I go back and I was getting audio from Bob Stoops' press conference, and that was back in the old field house. And I remember sitting down on the ground, hooking up the recorder, and I looked down, and I see this little rip down by my crotch, and I turned to Gary Sharp, and I said, I think Eric Crouch just ripped my pants. But
like I said, same.
It was incredible. It was You're right. It's like the last really super great moment. I know there's been others, but in like a big game, 2 versus 3, the rivalry, getting revenge from the year before. The best part was that Oklahoma tried to run the same damn play and they blew it.
In the first half.
In the
Nick
first
Hibble,
half
right?
on the same side of the field.
Yeah, can you imagine? We saw them do that, and we knew it was coming. We were like, did he? We were so confused.
And you're probably like, there's no way they're going to run it now.
There's no way. Yeah, we didn't think. We thought they were going to run it. They're like, there's exactly. That was our conversation. I should have my buddies on. We can tell you the whole story. It's unbelievable.
It could be a whole podcast.
What I remember about it is I was in the student section, and I was a grad student at the time, and I ended up, from the moment that play happened to when it ended, my row changed by 4 to 7 spots. I don't know how. It was crazy. You could have drowned in people. It was unbelievable.
And remember, Jack, what they did during the TV timeout when they put up the highlight, and I think it was Crouch's run against Missouri, and they freeze-framed him, and they morphed him into the Heisman, and the place went crazy.
We liked corny-ass graphics like that in 2001.
Well, I'm sure it was like seeing fire getting invented in 2001.
Oh, yeah, it pretty much was.
All right, John, you have 2 picks as we.
No,
excuse me. No, my bad. It's Jack's turn.
Yeah,
my bad.
My
I thought
turn.
we were I already screwed up the draft order.
Okay. I'm going to continue to do this strategically.
You going to do a Scott Frost win here, Jack, to really get the good ones off the board?
I will
early?
but I will do a Mike Riley one. I am going to go with Mike Riley. 2016 Oregon was which was the last time Nebraska fans were happy. A mere 9 years ago. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but actually not, because it truly is the last good win in Nebraska football. That's it. That's pretty much it. The last good, exciting, fun, happy moment that this fan base has endured was literally 9 seasons ago.
What about the Colorado game you just picked?
Yeah,
What about
like
that
you
game?
literally drafted the last one.
All right, I picked.
Were you only thinking about the second half when you were throwing a pity party for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was the last really good ending for sure. It was the highlight of
ending.
It was the highlight of Mike Riley's career, second year, and the Tommy Armstrong run, the touchdown, and then you had the combination of the late offensive touchdown and the late defensive stop, which at the time felt exciting. We did not understand that's not going to happen again for a decade. Okay, you're not going to have that kind of.
You're not even going to get one generally.
You're not going to get one, let alone both in the same game. The stadium was I wasn't there. I was at my I was watching at my mom's house. And you all of a sudden, in retrospect, it seems dumb, but all of a sudden you're like, you know what? This Mike Riley thing's definitely going to work. It's definitely going to work. And it would only last another 15 months. But at that moment, that would have been shocking to you and me, at least. So, and I'll just add on to this. I had such a disdain for Oregon because I had at that point
your son's friends,
a 12-year-old son. And while Oregon is still popular, I don't know you can express how popular Oregon was among children from about 2012 to 2016.
It was stupid.
It was.
It really is you had to be there. Yeah, kids today wouldn't understand.
Like the Shields in Lincoln had more Oregon stuff than Nebraska at that point. And they still have some, but I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. And so I had extra sort of vitriol because of that. So I will take that.
You do a podcast, and host a club with a big win the day guy. Are you?
I love the Ducks, Jack. I was a huge Ducks guy.
Josh has like a Dennis Dixon jersey.
Unreal.
Okay, settle down, Schaefer. I don't have a Dennis Dixon jersey.
Who's the large quarterback from Ole Miss that they had? Was it Pruitt?
No.
Oh crap! Who was that guy?
The transfer.
Think of his name now. Yeah,
he was
Jeremiah
Masoli.
Masoli.
Yeah, I did like Dennis Dixon. And then who was the guy they had after Masoli? Darren Thomas? Was that
the
his
guy
name?
from Eastern Washington?
No, you're
No.
thinking of a few
But
years later.
in the game that you picked, it was Dakota Prukop.
It was Dakota Prukop.
Prukop.
Yeah.
Josh was probably a big Achilles Smith guy.
No, I don't remember those days. I got into him during I got into him. No, I wasn't a fan of him yet. I was a Joey Harrington guy. That's when I started getting.
Joey Harrington, he was going for the Heisman against Crouch. What the hell are you doing?
I mean, I can watch
it.
It.
They didn't have a sweet graphic on their video.
It was Rex Grossman, Ken Dorsey, Harrington, and Eric Crouch, our guy.
I rooted for Crouch, for the record. I was happy that he won the Heisman.
Also, wasn't Bryant McKinney involved? Like, what? Didn't they have an offensive lineman? Did
they? Was Andre Johnson there too?
Brian McKinney hadn't given up a sack, and Bernard Thomas said he was going to give up many sacks, and he didn't.
Well, stay tuned to see if any of us picked the 2002 Rose Bowl as the
2001 Rose Bowl for those.
Oh, Jack, you are so strange with this. I'm
up
next.
I'm not. I'm the norm. Damn it.
No, you are not. You are not the norm.
Shut
Jack,
up. Go
to the 1995 Orange Bowl Wikipedia page and tell me what you find.
Do I pick? No.
No, it's my turn. I'm going to go to the Bo Pelini era for this one. It was a game that I was at. It was a game that Mike Schaefer was at, like 2 rows behind me, and I found this out later when I was looking at a photo of the game. 2010 Kansas State, the Thursday night where you left Manhattan, Kansas, and you thought everything was possible. I remember driving home with my friends saying, Taylor Martinez has 3.5 more years. This is going to be the best run of our entire lives. He's going to be a Heisman contender. Texas is coming to town next week. It's going to be a blowout win. Like that, I've never felt more confident at a moment in time in my Husker fandom than I was in that Thursday night with Bo Pelini, his kick-ass defense, Levante David, and an offense that truly looked unstoppable. And so 9 days later when Texas absolutely skunks them, it was a total kick to the pills. But that Thursday night, that was my first ever road game. It was such a fun experience. Those Kansas State fans were talking mad shit before the game. And to see all of those headlights and all of the taillights as they left from our seats, Schaefer, and we were up in the upper deck, was just such a glorious, glorious experience. It was so much fun that night.
Yeah, I was in such a weird spot at this point because I was back working for the Columbus Telegram and would like occasionally be at Nebraska games. Like I was at Nebraska, Texas. I was at a couple of them because it just lined up where there wasn't something for me to do on Saturday. So I could go to the football game and do stuff from there. But this one I actually attended as a fan, and there is no level of schadenfreude that exists that can explain what it was like to be in Aggieville that night at the bars amongst Kansas State fans, while every bar there, for whatever reason, just decided we're going to leave it on ESPN, and every single highlight on SportsCenter that night was just Taylor Martinez ripping apart their defense, stitch by stitch, limb by limb, yard by. It was incredible. It's just like the level of sad drinking. Like they couldn't even get themselves to give you a, go F yourself or even flip you off. It was just like a go away, man. It was so incredible. And we were out until like 3 a.m. And the guy that I rode down with tells me sometime after midnight, hey man, I forgot to tell you I've got an 8 a.m. meeting back in Lincoln.
Oh my God.
We got up. We left the bars at like 2 or 3. We got an hour and a half of sleep, got in a car, and then he drove us back to Lincoln. And I have never been more mad at a person, I think, in my life. This is the best man of my wedding, my best friend, and just one of the all-time. And then he like tells me on the drive that they offered to cancel the meeting, but he said no.
What? Oh my God.
He just like didn't process what was going to happen if Nebraska won that night.
Wow.
We had a place to stay. Like we were never going back to Lincoln.
I can't believe he was the best man at your wedding.
Right?
Yeah, no kidding.
We went back that night, and I got home, and I turned it to ESPN, and the game was on. And so, Shafe, you were watching it at a bar, and I was watching it back at home in Lincoln.
Yeah, it was just the best visiting an opponent's community stadium, all of it. It's so perfect. And they're
I'm
so
trying to-
weird down there. Oh, it makes it even better.
I'm trying to remember, but so Nebraska's only up like 14 points at halftime. And I think if I remember right, it was like 3rd and long on the first drive of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And the place is going nuts because,
Yep.
you know, you could feel, oh, this might be a momentum shift right here. Force a 3 and out, get a punt, get a score, whatever. And then
That was the Taylor
takes
Martinez.
Taylor
play.
takes off from 80 yards out, and I seem to remember they went to the stands, and the K-State students were just like gobsmacked. They're like, just surrender Cobras everywhere. Just what is going on? And that's when you knew, okay, they're not going to lose this game. They're going to absolutely kill these guys.
So we did this game on a Beacon Husker Rewind like the last one we did, right, Josh?
Yeah, it was like a month and a half ago.
Shout out to those. They've been found. The lost episodes have been
Yes,
we found all the
season 1
old
episodes
ones.
are available too now. They will be.
But
at some
John,
point.
I had forgotten you and me and Sean Callahan in particular were all over Kevin Keatsman before that game. Do you remember this? He was ripping Nebraska.
Yeah.
I remember you and I played clips of him that morning on Keatsman.
Because one of our subscribers, Matt, he included tweets from that night on the video, and like Sean Callahan mentions during the game, like Kevin Keatsman's talking trash about Nebraska or something. It was weird.
Yeah,
man.
like we were playing way into that, and apparently Sean was too.
I have no knowledge of any of that. Give me some backstory here.
He was on
radio guy.
810.
Yeah, 810.
And he was just, kind of talking shit. Basically, Nebraska's leaving the conference. It's time to send them on their way, kick them in the ass on the way out. And so, like, John got the clips, I'm pretty sure, and we played them on our show just to like pump people up that morning, if I recall. And Sean, I don't know if Sean knew of them, and
I think he was dry, like he was getting to the stadium and listening to it.
I mean, he might saw that we were tweeting or might have heard our show. I don't know. But he was talking about him on Twitter too, as all three of us were. So that was like a big thing during that time. So
it's funny. Do you guys remember the stud Kansas State running back that was on that team?
Yes, we just did this. So
I have the name. I can give you the name if you don't have it.
We were just talking about it. What is it? I can't remember.
They had like custom jerseys made for him down there that people were wearing. Daniel
Thomas.
Yeah, he was really good. I remember that being the big concern. Like, hey, how can Nebraska slow this guy down? He was a non-factor.
You guys should watch
a total non-factor.
The Big Ten rewind we just did on this was fun. We were talking about Daniel Thomas a lot, but yeah,
it was a good time.
All right,
John?
who's next?
Oh,
John,
okay.
we're at the turn.
Well, it's time for now, did we decide yet what we're doing with the Mickey Joseph games?
I figure we
should have had a bonus category, but
we could have. I say, John, we include those into the Frost era if you want.
A utility hitter, if you will.
If that's the case,
extra,
if that's the case, here's my double dip. First game, we're going Mike Riley.
Oh,
we're going 2015 Michigan State.
Okay.
When Brandon Riley caught a ball illegally and scored with 17 seconds left.
And you and I argued about it on the radio.
And we argued about it on the radio.
I did too with you.
Yes. And then the back-to-back, I'm going to go Iowa 2022.
You think Jamel Hill ever got over that one?
Was she mad about that game?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember
State
that.
Fan. Yeah, she was
that's
really,
right. She
really
is from Michigan.
Really mad on.
That's too bad that she was upset.
And then the next
just
day,
an awful thing.
and then the day after that, and then for a while longer.
I mean,
John,
it was a penalty, but whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about last great moments for the program. I mean, you can absolutely make an argument that 2015, it's not the last great one because they do beat Oregon. Though that Oregon team the next year sucks. This is their last win over a top 10 team.
Right.
This is
the way they did it. I mean, they were dead in the water. They were down 2 scores with 4 minutes to go. They were dead.
Yeah.
He's not here to hear this insult, but there's no way I'm taking 2016 Oregon over 2015 Michigan State when we're talking the Mike Riley era.
Yeah, because this
There's
was the
just no
game
way.
this was the game that gave him the let me clear my throat, and people stuck around in the stadium, and
I mean,
they celebrated like crazy.
The water bottles, and they were like spraying water all over each other because they just won this game. Michigan State ends up making the college football playoff. I believe they were number 5 and undefeated at that point in time. And then it was, I mean, as John said, the let me clear my throat. It was a party inside the stadium. It was a sort of this was a discussion I noticed on the I-80 Club sometime over the weekend. It was an organic thing, like the way that everybody
came out of nowhere
and reacted.
Right.
And,
I was surprised by it.
You know, it wasn't this like force-sponsored celebration by First National Bank of Omaha, you know, anything like that. Like it was
music
real. Got played and they went nuts. And at that point in the year, with everything that had gone wrong and all of the stupid Hail Mary lost to BYU, lost to Wisconsin, lost to Illinois, like all of these really, really, really stupid losses, that game sort of like felt like it took the chip off the shoulder for the program. Now they would end up losing to Iowa in a really stupid fashion in 2015, but that was the game of the Mike Riley era to me.
That was number 1 on my list because you're right. It was organic, you know, and it kind of took me back. I'm like, man, people are just hanging around. I don't get this.
Yep.
But they were genuinely enthused because they really, you know, it'd been a while since Nebraska had beaten somebody. And I think even for the Bo-Leavers, this was like, oh man, this thing might actually work. You know, because they the way they came back and then the team Michigan State became.
It led to a very dumb one-day discussion of act like you've been there, like Nebraska shouldn't celebrate like that.
Right.
Because they've won, you know, and it's
Dude,
like, well,
that was the worst
really
part of the Mike Riley
game like that.
Seriously?
That was the worst part of the Mike Riley era, was just the lack of joy that people would find in any sort of success because he followed Bo Pelini.
It feels to me that 3-year stretch, unlike any other that I can remember of Nebraska football, it felt like there was people who actively rooted for Nebraska to fail. Yep, and I can't say that about any other time. But, I mean, there was people, and it felt like they were in all walks of it. I think there was people who felt in the media that really took the knives out when they had every opportunity to. It felt like the fan base. I mean, there's people in my life that only wanted to watch to hate on the team during those 3 years. Like it's a very odd run of Nebraska football for a million different reasons.
There was also a weird time because the week before they had just gotten blown out by Purdue on Halloween.
Yeah.
And looking
to drop them to 3-6.
Like it was like this is the bottom, and you have a playoff team who did end up being a playoff team.
They didn't get blown out in that game. They lost like 55-51 or something.
I guess, maybe it wasn't a blowout.
Riker Fife started it for Nebraska.
I think he had 4 turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
It was just ugly. It was
terrible.
terrible.
They were down by like 3 scores.
They were getting
and then
blown
the fourth
out.
quarter.
Yeah.
And then they put up a lot of points. John, did you want to say anything about the 22 Iowa game? I mean, it's wild that of all of the only win of the post-Bo era over Iowa is that god-awful 2022.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I still haven't seen the game because that's when we were flying back from Hawaii.
Wait, you haven't even seen this game?
I saw highlights, obviously.
They announced Matt Rhule the next day, and it's kind of pointless to even ever talk about it.
We never got to enjoy it. There was also a Husker basketball game going on, but Trey Palmer absolutely torches their entire defensive back. It was wonderful.
It's one of the games where it seems like they're going to somehow blow it because they are kicking Iowa's ass.
Right.
And then it just slow meltdown. Anthony Grant has that terrible fumble.
Terrible fumble.
Yeah, because when we took off, it was like, I think Nebraska just scored. And I'm like, okay. And then we're in the air and no internet. So I'm like, oh, gee, I wonder if they held on. And then we get on the ground and it's like, oh, damn, they held on. I had no idea what happened in the middle. But, I mean, beating Iowa, to see, the genuine joy when they're out there, when they go out and they run out and they grab that trophy.
It so sucked that we didn't get to enjoy that. God.
Yeah. Because you're right.
Good.
The next day it was like, oh, here's the new coach and, we're moving on. But as far as a quality win, I mean, let's face it, there ain't a lot of great Scott Frost wins. So To me, this was the only one. Well, there's one other one I can think of, but this one I think meant a little bit more.
Yeah,
and the fact that I can ceremoniously pick a game that Frost actually wasn't involved in, and yet use it under his category, it makes it work.
Well, we have two others from the Mickey Joseph era. If any of us are going to go with those, with the Rutgers and Indiana wins of 2022. I'm going to go to the Bill Callahan era for mine. None of us have picked a Bill Callahan
First
game
Bill
just yet.
Callahan pick. Wow.
I feel like there's a ton on the board. I'm going to go a little bit of sentimentality, a little bit of it was a monumental win because the program wasn't really winning on the road very much throughout a large portion of the Solich and Callahan stretch, at least over ranked teams, and also just a dash of fun with John because Purify
you and your good lord,
baby,
touchdown
Go!
over Texas A&M. Look, there are probably better wins.
That's
in
a good.
there.
That's a quality pick right there.
It's a good pick, but Mo Purify is still not worthy of a top first round pick on the all-time Husker draft. I'm sorry.
Love Mo Purify. In all seriousness,
I agree. I'm with you on that.
That was a program, and you go back and you look at the Solich era. His big bugaboo was not winning on the road against ranked teams. He struggled at. It just never happened for him. And into the Callahan era, it was more of the same. And so Callahan would pick up big wins. Like in 2006 alone, they almost beat Texas, of course, but they beat Missouri at home. But this was the one that they needed to clinch the North, because if they blow this game, even though they beat Missouri, Missouri might sneak into the Big 12 championship, and thus Bill Callahan never actually gets a Big 12 championship win, a North win rather. So this was a huge game, and it's insanely memorable, right? Like the last few minutes of the game where Nebraska gets a stop, and then they go down the field, and Zach Taylor absolutely nails. They get a face mask penalty right before the touchdown pass. And I've had some friends who were at that game, and they said their fans were freaks. And so it's just like that place was absolutely wild that night.
They beat him in 0-2, remember? And the Phil Bland interception, and Nebraska fans stormed the field, and their fake military people tried to, honor or guard them off or whatever. That's great. Yeah, it's
I love that game.
Honor
Good
guard.
call.
Pretend troops.
My favorite thing about this exercise is sometimes I'll just get lost in remembering the players on the other team, and it's like, oh yeah, that was Jaworski Lane time.
Jaworski Lane.
Huge.
I'm pretty
Stephen
sure
McGee, was McGee their quarterback yet?
Yeah.
Yep, Stephen McGee. And then, if I recall, wasn't Mike Sherman the coach for
I
Texas
believe
A&M?
so.
And then if you think about it, so Mike Sherman.
he was Zach Taylor. Yeah.
Mike Sherman's
his father-in-law.
son-in-law, Zach Taylor.
Father-in-law.
They met that day.
That's pretty wild. So that's a super memorable game, and it was up there for me.
That's a great pick.
for the Callahan era. Great pick.
Oh, thank you. Jack?
Oh, yes. All right. I'm going to Bo. I am going to Bo, and I've got this as my number one Bo game. And now people could definitely
God, I hope you're not going to do what I think you're going to
argue with me about this, but my number one Bo game is an 8:00 Thursday night game in a rainy.
Let's go.
I'm so excited. I got this the way that I played this game, but I still got this game. There's no Bo game I love better than 2009 Missouri. And Ndamukong Suh.
Big Mr. Sue, Jack. It was
Big Mr. Sue.
Big Mr. Sue in the rain. I had been to the Missouri games in 2007 and 2003 in Columbia. So this is the first, in 2001. I didn't go in 2005, but I've been to 3 of the last 4 and seen 2 of the most humiliating Husker losses I've ever endured in my life. And then to have that game in that situation on a Thursday night. And I remember my son, who was like 5 years old then, had been watching with me and some friends I had right over there. And was it Haig or DeJon Gomes who had a pick? Gomes. Yep. Gomes had an interception.
That's like in the midst of the crazy fourth quarter run when they are just stopping them and scoring on every single possession.
And Gomes had that pick, and Niles Paul had a touchdown either right before or right after that. And I remember running all the way upstairs to see if Johnny was still awake to tell him. I was like, holy cow, they're going to win. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. And the sack Sue had, was it the end of the first half that he had that sack
when he messes up Blaine Gabbert's ankle?
Ankle. Yeah. Yep. Like it was, I mean, John, we've talked about the bloodlust of Charles Thompson getting hurt. That is the aughts version of that for me.
Yeah.
When Sue hurt Blaine Gabbert, it is honestly the same thing. I was as high, and there was still a lot to happen with that era, but man, that
was a great night.
Not a Bo Pelini guy now, but man, I was that night. I'll tell you what. And I was that defense, the idea of that defense and all the dudes on it and how nasty they were. And then the Gomes and the Hags of it all, right? Yep. It was just, man, it was so good.
And just how it flips.
I love that game.
The end of the third quarter, they pick up a first down. I think
nice picture.
Rex picks up a first down, and everything then happens the exact opposite. Somebody mentioned in the chat a couple of minutes ago, Husker for MU, the reverse of the 1990 Nebraska-Colorado game, both 27-12, both 27-0 in the fourth quarter. Like, that game is horrible to rewatch for the first three quarters, and then the fourth quarter is just like one of the best times you'll ever have as a Husker.
Yeah, so it felt like that thing was
man.
They felt dead in the water. I mean, the defense was playing good, but they couldn't get anything going, and then they hit the long play to Paul.
That nice ball touchdown. Yep.
Like, and then where did that come from? It was like a lightning bolt.
The Gomes pick was the next drive, I think. Got those two, that Paul touchdown and the Gomes pick were just, man, they're still some of my most favorite recent memories after sort of the championship era. That was a great night. And then I remember the next morning, Bishop and I did the show, and Jeff Callahan, who's now the play-by-play guy for Florida State, called in at like 6:05, right when we got in our first segment, and he had just finished the network call-in show.
Yeah.
He was driving home from the network call-in show, and he called Bishop and me to just like check in. And that's so awesome. It was the first thing we did on the air that Friday morning was talk to Jeff Callahan, who had just finished hosting the call-in show, which I always love that memory of Callahan. So it was very cool.
Yeah, those Thursday night games were fun.
Yeah,
because we got to do a show the next morning.
Awesome.
Dude, yeah. I remember it was an 8:00 game, and my son it was close to Halloween, and he at his daycare, he had some kind of like Halloween open house game thing, but it was like the game didn't start till 8, and so we got to do the entire thing, and the game was slow too. I don't know when it ended, John, but it was super late.
Yeah, it was.
Well, remember, there was also power issues down there. They had lost some lights or whatever.
They had weather and power. Yeah, you're right. There was something else, I think, that delayed it. So, yeah.
Schaefer, we're at the turn again with you.
Yeah, real quickly on that 2009 game, it taught me one of the big sports writer lessons that I would learn very early. I was a student reporter for the Daily Nebraskan. I was there covering that game. We have a deadline at that point that you're hoping this game is going to be done. So you're trying to work ahead as much as you can. I basically have a column written through 3 quarters of that game, something to the effect of Bo Pelini's inability to win in critical games and critical situations, something like that. Like basically Bo's going to fail when the pot's the biggest. That was the column, more or less. Just 1 year and 4 games into his tenure. But you have to remember at that point, like they lost any critical game they played. Virginia Tech on home, lost. Virginia Tech on the road, lost. Missouri homecoming, blown out. One of the most embarrassing losses I remember just from my college experiences of it.
Oklahoma, they got smoked by the Sooners.
I was very sort of already out on Bo by this point. I'm in the media, the student reporter, so nobody's really reading anything I'm doing. So you kind of can do and write sort of as you wish. And I'm laying it in thick, and I have this thing ready to go. Fourth quarter starts, and it's like you could feel the vibe in the press box shift. You got all the tribes like, I've got to rewrite this story. I got to get this graph in.
And it's late already. Yeah.
So like the whole vibe shifts and the game shifts, and you guys have hit on all of it. The other thing from this, I remember I had asked going into it, and I had gotten the Bo Pelini. This might be another reason why I was sort of knives out at that point. I had gotten the Bo Pelini, like, what do you think response? when I asked if he was concerned about their running game because they had struggled against Virginia Tech and Missouri's rush defense was pretty good. So like when you're a student reporter or even just now, like sometimes I'm thinking before I butt in for a question and it's like I'm trying to phrase it out in my mind. And, so you're really kind of psyching yourself up for this. And so I asked the question and Bo just shits on it with, what do you think? And then he just kind of like stares at me and like waiting for me to respond. And I was like, no. I just kind of sat there. It was awkward. It's like one of those super ass awkward things. People came up to me afterwards and like, hey man, we've been there. That happened. It's just like, you just kind of got to push on. And they go have this horrible performance running the football against Missouri for 3 quarters. Roy Halou actually busts off a big run late in that game to push their numbers up.
Yep.
And so I asked Tim Beck after the game, Nebraska wins this. We've gone through kind of like what all of that was. So I kind of asked him after the game, I'm like, do you have any concerns moving forward? Because you guys struggled to run the ball other than that long run from Halou. And he just ripped into me. Like I just couldn't not avoid getting yelled at over, asking questions about the run game.
Tim Beck did? Jeez.
Yeah, it wasn't.
No, it'd have been Sean Watson who was the OC.
Watson.
It
Makes
wasn't
more
Tim
sense
Beck
to
in
me.
that game. It was Sean Watson. It was Watson. It was one of those things. So it was just a you put your foot in it.
That makes more
basically.
sense to me. Yeah.
God, that's so funny. Schaefer, you have 2 picks.
All right, I am back up, and I am going to go to the. See, this is tough. There's no obvious picks I think left at this point for me in terms of like, I definitely
do it like you do your fantasy football team. It'll be fine.
Just throw it out there. Hey, you never know. This could be the Justin Jefferson pick. That won me nothing.
Yeah.
How
many titles do you have? Yeah.
We're going to go to a very random Scott Frost win. Okay. One that I don't know if other people will receive it in the same way, but it's in the year of 2018.
Bethune-Cookman.
It is November of 2018. And Nebraska wins 9-6 over Michigan State in a defensive tussle for the ages. I want to say like Rocky Lombardi maybe was the quarterback or something like that for Michigan State.
That's my number one fraud. That's my number one. That's top on the board for me.
That was number 2 for me.
Okay. It's just a snow-fested game. Like Maurice Washington, I think, hurdled a guy at one point. That might have been the most explosive thing anybody saw offensively in that game.
Barrett Pickering hit field goals. Yep.
3 just kind of squeak them past the crossbar type field goals, and Nebraska wins that one. What also stood out to me is, so I'm down there at the end of that game taking photos, and Ty Robinson was on his official visit that day. That game might have helped seal Nebraska get a guy who would go on to be a pretty important
from Arizona, right? It was snowing. He was from Arizona.
He and Turner Corcoran were the big visitors, I remember, from that weekend. And they're hugging. They got their leather jackets on, covered in snow, just a bunch of man meat bro hugging after this game for a recruiting visit that they're on. It felt like, similar to how Jack was saying, you felt like things were going to take off when he was talking about 2016 Oregon. You felt like Nebraska had righted the ship at the end of that because they won a defensive game. It wasn't pretty. Yep. They could play tough. It wasn't just
the photo of Frost coming off the field with the ball and the snow, and like you can tell, genuinely emotional in that game. I was the same way, Shape. I was with my dad for that game, and I remember, first of all, I hadn't really ever been at a snow game before, and so like that was a part of the specialness of it. And I remember thinking, can you imagine if this thing would have kicked off at 2:30? It would have been in a freaking snowstorm, because the snowstorm was more after the game. But that was I'm with you. Defensive win in a year of their other wins were all offensive, where they're scoring 50, 40-something points, and they're allowing like 30. And this was the one time that didn't happen.
All right. I am going to go to the Bill Callahan era. And I went back and forth on this. One of my favorite games of all time, and I'm not going to take it in this pick, but I'm curious if it comes up. But I am going to take a game that I remember very fondly, a game that had a very bizarre ending, a game where Nebraska beat another helmet in a helmet-to-helmet game. It was down in the Alamo Bowl
Oh, man.
Nebraska, Michigan.
Yeah.
Again, you felt like Nebraska did something that night. Like they announced, like, hey, we're not just going to go away because we had a bad year in 2004, struggled a little in 2005. There's a lot of hype attached to winning that game that went into the 2006 season. That felt like a really fun time for the Bill Callahan era. And so I'm going 2005 Alamo Bowl.
I love that pick. That was a game,
It's a
Jack,
great
you'll
pick.
appreciate this, that did not start it was not on ESPN when the game kicked off because whatever the stupid bowl game was before it
Wonder
was
what it was.
lasting too long. I remember being
kinda-
so upset by that, as it got going.
Yeah, that sounds about right. No, it was a weird game too because you kind of thought things were falling apart too, and then Corey Ross has that big run, scores the touchdown, and don't forget the crazy Hail Marys at the end as well, which
Yeah.
and Steve Breston and who else was on there? I can't remember who else was there, but yeah.
Yeah, as Mike Tirico's losing his mind as it seems like they're going to actually score a touchdown.
Right. And he was like, I'm not sure if they're supposed to be out there. They're not supposed to be on the field. It was like, oh my God, this is not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
No, that game to me is that might be the number one Callahan game.
Yeah.
It
It might be because like you said, Schaefer, I mean, it felt like they accomplished something. I know we're not talking like, national championship Michigan, but that was a game where it felt like they were a little overmatched, but they played above themselves.
Yes.
And kept answering. And then they get the late score. Yep. And that's when a lot of the hype for
it was the height of the
next season took off.
Yep.
Yeah, because they got the restore the order win, and then they had that, plus they'd beaten Kansas State with Harrison back. Yeah, and it just kind of carried on over into the offseason. People were jacked.
Hey,
Was it a big Corey Ross night?
Yeah, it was. He has great stories from that night, Mike. Well, you've heard them. You were with me. He's told me.
No, he was pretty much the best part of the 2015 season, I think, for both of us. So
yes, he told a lot of stories about the night. Hold on, going back to Mike's the previous pick on this. Can you guys see this? Here, let's see. I'm gonna make it bigger so you can see this. But just real quick, going back to this. So there you go. That's what that looked like. that was me and Johnny. All right, who's next?
You're up, Jack.
Me again. Speaking of Bill Callahan, I got to get this one off the board because I love this game.
Okay.
And it's the only, since the number one is off the board, probably. I am going a wildly underrated game, maybe the peak of the Bill Callahan era, in my opinion. 2005 Colorado in Boulder.
Damn it.
Tell us about it, Jack.
Speaking of Corey Ross,
yep. A Colorado man himself.
Man, that game, you don't say the phrase in the 2000s with Nebraska football, unexpected blowout too often.
No, you do not.
But that's what this was. The Colorado fans throwing the bottles on the field, the students getting kicked out. Was it Blair Walsh who couldn't make or whoever? No, what's his name? The kicker for the Packers. He was
Mason Crosby.
Crosby was missing field goals. Nate Swift was throwing pass. I don't know. Corey threw a pass. Nate Swift had a huge game. Zach Taylor looked like he could not. Everybody was open the entire game. It was just a bizarre, super good game that you didn't expect to be a good game. You don't have those games anymore. And it was the restore the order game.
Yes,
is how it's colloquially known.
Yeah.
So,
Corey
amazing.
Ross had 129 yards receiving in that game.
Jesus.
Nebraska
he had a long
only
screen,
rushed.
if I remember right, John,
Yes,
where he caught it and raced through the defense.
Yeah. Nebraska only ran for 105 yards that day.
Oh, wow.
But Zach Taylor was 27 of 48, 392 yards. But you're right. I mean, talk about because Colorado was already headed to the championship game, which they wasn't that the year they just got absolutely destroyed by Texas.
70-3, I think. Or
Yes,
something like
and
that.
so we just kind of assumed, okay, well, Colorado's won the division. This team's not going anywhere.
And Nebraska had picked up the bowl eligibility the week before, so at the very least they were going to go to a bowl.
But and then and that game, I mean, after the first quarter, it was never close. Yeah. They were never close.
I remember thinking, like, where have this Colorado's defense cannot handle this offense? Where's this been the entire year? It was unbelievable how well they did. So
absolutely smoked them. That's a good pick.
There it is. And by the way, I got gifts for everyone that Christmas. The Restore the Order shirts. You can get them at Gateway.
We got those for Christmas that year too.
Yep, everybody did.
Adidas ones.
I remember going to the Nebraska bookstore branch that was at Gateway at the time and bought it for a bunch of people. And there it is.
Awesome.
France Hardy. Joe just posted, I believe, wearing it. So yeah.
No hands, France. My pick, right? Up next.
Yep.
Jack, earlier you said there was no other Matt Rhule game to pick. I am stunned, and I'm very happy. I feel like this is great value, and I wanted to make sure I got it before I had to pick through some dreck. I'm going with the Wisconsin win from last year, locking up their first bowl berth in many, many years. I mean, Jack, after this, you're looking at like some 2023 stuff in here.
No, so I know. There's a big drop off, but it's not close to the Colorado game. I got the last one.
Well,
I mean, they stormed the field for the Wisconsin.
Storm the field, Jack. You and I did a podcast saying it's okay to storm the field, much to John Bishop's chagrin.
My son did storm the field.
The best part about this, so the bowl, getting the bowl monkey out their back, huge. But like there were a couple times in the second half where like Wisconsin would score, and you're just wondering like, is this gonna be uncomfortable? And every time they did, Nebraska just went right back down the field. It was not the finest hour for Tony White's defense when you take into account the opponent that they played. But it was a nice win. It was an easy win, and I mean, it came against. Who? The second most hated team that is regularly on Nebraska's schedule anymore, even though they're not going to be on their schedule again this season. So 2024 Wisconsin, I feel like, is incredible value this late in the draft.
Yeah, it is, because that was literally going to be my next pick. Because there's really not – I guess there's one other game, and so I'll just go ahead and
you going to do that one?
Yeah, the bowl game. I mean, there's – What other Matt Rhule games are there? I mean, Schaefer, you got the last pick on that, but
I am fired up when I'm going to unveil that.
Okay, good.
Really?
I'm glad you are, but I'm gonna go with the.
I actually had one ranked
Pinstripe Bowl.
I've got one ranked ahead of both of those games that I bet Schaefer's going to pick.
Okay,
I bet I know what it is.
All right, well, I'm gonna go Pinstripe Bowl.
Okay. And then you're at the turn,
and then. I mean, I can sit. I don't have to pick a Callahan. I don't have to pick a Pelini because those are, you guys have already used them up. So going to Frank.
Okay.
1999 Texas Big 12 championship.
Ooh.
This one was a good one because they should have beaten them. Freaking Buckhalter doesn't fumble the ball at the 1 yard line. They would have beaten Texas. They would have played for the national championship. They had no business losing that crappy team. And I don't know if you remember this, but I just saw it recently on YouTube. But apparently after that game, after the game in Austin,
the first one,
Applewhite claimed that Nebraska's defense was easy to read.
Really?
And there is a YouTube video. It's John Schutz on Channel 7, and he grabs Carlos Polk. And Carlos Polk is like, said defense is easy to read, and he was so jacked. And I'm like, yeah.
We can talk about Jason Peter. We can talk about Grant Wistrom. We can talk about the baddest dudes who played for Nebraska over the years. There's nobody. Carlos Polk is terrifying.
Carlos Polk was so jacked, and we should have shut him out. Should have shut him out that day. I mean, they had no chance. But I mean, last conference, hard to believe, last conference championship.
And it created the great email forward about the person who went to both the Nebraska-Texas football game and the Texas-Arizona basketball game in the same day and had like 87 beers during that time. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember that.
Wow. Okay, somebody I hope never mind. Look it up. It's great. Never mind. Go ahead. We got to move.
So we're just going to my pick next.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with Frank Solich now because I mean there's some solid games that are available, but honestly, like I'm trying to figure out if I was gonna go with my heart or my head. I'm gonna go with an absolute ass whooping over a team that was ranked really high at the time. I'll go with the game in 1999 when Nebraska got revenge for the loss in 1998 versus the Wildcats as they came into Lincoln. The thing that I'll always remember about this game is we had our first ever stereo that we hooked up to our television. So that was the first time watching with quote unquote surround sound. And then there's like Nebraska classic early. They drive down, they fumble at the 1 yard line like they always did. I think it was Dan Alexander. He got benched for the rest of the game.
Shocking.
But then they block the punt, they get the safety, and after that, I mean, they just run through them. And to get to John's game, the Big 12 championship, they had to win this one. This was the game that was ultimately for the Big 12 North. Kansas State would have won it otherwise. So I will go with 1999 Kansas State.
It was just insanely hot that day.
Was
it
really?
Like November? Yes, it was like 85. I remember because I was I actually watched the game from the broadcast booth, and of course the windows are open, and it's hot, and the play. I mean, it felt like a September game. And the place was just jacked because they wanted blood so bad after what happened the year before.
Jack.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I don't always feel like I have the strongest memories of the 1999 season. I don't know why. It just doesn't. I feel like it should stand out a lot more.
It is kind of a lost season, weirdly.
Oddly, that game
they were very, very good. And they had I think
that was his best
tracking
team
to see if the James Madison game was going to matter for Virginia Tech and all of that. But it's just one of those seasons that I just don't have enough
I don't remember
recollection of, I guess.
Kansas State game very well, actually. Weirdly enough, I don't know why. Anyway, I don't remember that, but I mean, I do to some degree, but not totally. I'm going with all right, I'm going to save Solich because there's no reason to pick a Solich game. You know what? I will pick, oddly, because it's still there, Tom Osborne and Nebraska just absolutely decimating Florida in the 1995 national championship game.
1996
Fiesta Bowl.
1995 Fiesta Bowl. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen this game, but Tommy
tell us about
Frazier.
it.
Well, Tommy Frazier had a really good game. Florida had a hard time tackling him. Lee Corso said Nebraska was not going to be able to compete in the game because it was on natural grass, and they couldn't keep up with the speed of Florida, and it makes me laugh even at this moment because they absolutely beat the living dog shit out of them from the moment that game started. They absolutely pummeled the living shit out of another team, and it was amazing. Like, I don't even know how to explain this to anyone who wasn't alive then. I really don't.
When you take into account opponent and what it meant and how good everyone was, it is the most dominating win that Nebraska football will ever play. They will never have another game like
this. Was supposed to be like the next game of the century.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we had already had the joy of that Rubicon had already been crossed with the national championship. And so you have this next one, but Florida, nobody thinks Nebraska's going to win. And I mean, it's just, it was goofy how much better Nebraska was than them. And then that was when we realized, like, holy hell, this is like an all-time amazing team. And we didn't, I hope we understood what we had during the moment, but what a fun, I mean, man, and so this is, after the 95 season, January 1996, this is my senior year of high school. My entire basement, there's video of this I can share sometime. My entire basement is filled with my friends in high school. We had a huge party for this game, and we all together just watch Nebraska absolutely murder Florida and win a second national championship. I mean,
it's a great pick.
It's a really good game. I mean,
I would agree
because it was so It was so because anytime Nebraska played a big game, it had to be close and it had to be dramatic, and this was the exact opposite. I mean,
yeah.
And the funny thing is, after the safety, the Jamel Williams safety, and I think it was only, I don't remember, it was only like a 2-score game at that point, but at that moment you said, oh, this is over. I mean, you felt it. It was like, there's no way, because Florida had nothing for them, and they went empty back 2 plays in a row inside the 5-yard line. Should have had
another safety.
Should have had a safety on the play before,
and then they got one on the next play.
And then
Honestly,
Williams, they totally didn't block him, and didn't have a back in the backfield to block anybody. Just crushed him.
As soon as Nebraska ran that play, where Tommy did the pass to Lawrence, it looked like it was going the other way, misdirection, threw it to Lawrence Phillips on the other side of the field. I was like, they can't. It's over. It's not going to be close.
And the funny thing is, Florida took the lead.
Yeah.
They
did
took
for
the
a
ball
while
down the field and had the lead for
That's right.
Like a second.
Only the second time they trailed all season.
What's like the closest modern equivalent that we've seen of this in like a championship game? Because I don't think Georgia
last year's
think
Super
Georgia,
Bowl,
TCU, but nobody
because of the
TCU
opponent.
was,
Shafe, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because like I would say the USC win over Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, the Matt line at Reggie, like that game. People thought it was going to be awesome, and they just destroyed them. That was another one that was over early.
What about Ohio State, Florida?
That was the other
God,
one
John,
that
that's a good one.
I think Ohio State, Florida, because I mean,
and it was so shocking. Ohio State had been good all season long. They had
they made Ohio State look slow. They made them look like they weren't even playing.
That's when the SEC speed thing started. Was that night?
And Nebraska made Florida look slow that night.
Yes,
they did.
Yeah,
they were totally outclassed.
Killed them.
Yeah.
Shafe, you have 3 picks left, but you have 2 in a row right now as we make the final turn for you.
Yeah, I think we will just go ahead and dip our toe into the Mike Riley era.
Okay.
And we will go with, I mean, I don't know that it really stands out to anybody other than me, because I won a very, very random bet saying, wow, very intoxicated at a Christmas party, that Josh Rosen would throw 2 interceptions in the Foster Farms Bowl. And lo and behold, I end up winning this bet because Josh Rosen throws 2 interceptions in the Foster Farms Bowl. Nebraska wins the Foster Farms Bowl. Mike Riley gets into a bowl game. They get their 2015 season. It's not a particularly memorable game. It's not a particularly great, inspiring win, but it was one where, again, you felt like, okay, righted the ship. This thing at least has a little bit of momentum. And it also kind of weirdly felt important for Nebraska to not be like 5-8 at the end of the season. Like 8 losses at that time just seemed inconceivable. And so there was a little juice there for the Nebraska program. But you guys kind of took the big ones off the board, and I just don't have the same fondness for.
Didn't Nate Gehrig get ejected from that game?
Probably.
Yeah.
That was in the period of time where he got banned from every game.
Yes.
That might have been the night the Aaron Sorensen targeting tweet began. Like, the meme might have actually begun during that game, if you go back and find it.
That very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
That very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Josh, I don't know what that is, for the record. Anyway, you know.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Just to go ahead and get it off the board and just reveal, I know people have been waiting. What could the greatest Matt Rhule game that hasn't been discussed so far?
Yes.
I am going to take you to Champaign, Illinois.
Yep.
That's my number 2. That's my number 2.
On a Friday night, tough-ass Nebraska football. None of this wimpy Scott Frost stuff. These boys can play.
Emmett Johnson, baby. Let's go.
These guys can figure it out. Nebraska gets a Big Ten win. What a just
Riley Van Poppel, goal line stand, baby. Remember that? Let's go.
Remember they had the practice against Michigan, Shafe, or after the Michigan
Sunday
game
practice
before
that
a
game
Friday
pumps me up. I love that game.
Yeah, I think I made a mistake.
You watch at my house.
I watched the first half with you, and you were on your knees at times during the first half, which was
I don't know what that means.
You were.
Shane,
Means
that's
whatever
a
you want it
tremendous
to
pick.
mean, but that's a good pick.
Wow.
It's a great pick, Shave.
Yep.
It's a great
and
pick.
so that closes out the board on Matt Rhule, which I think is the first coach to have his entire era.
He is.
Closed
Wow,
out
that
here.
is crazy. I can't believe that we still have.
Well, I mean, there's not like there's a lot to choose from, you know.
I mean, yeah, but Schaefer
with
saving
Osborne, you're like
for
picking
last. That's
between
awesome.
Hall of Famers, but
Yeah, you really are. You really are. Jack.
All right, so there's no reason to pick a Solich game, so I gotta, because you guys have already done it. So I got a Frost game left. Man, I'm down to 2, and I cannot decide which one to do for sure.
Bethune Cookman.
Man, which one do I take? I am going to take 2021 Northwestern.
Damn it!
Scott Frost.
Oh, you suck. I was gonna pick that one, Jack, and bring up how
I was
whiny
at-
you were that
I
one
had-
time.
I had one other one that I was considering. I won't spoil it. Well,
Oh.
you might take it. I was at both of them, but this one I did not expect to go as well as it did. Nebraska just beat the absolute shit out of Northwestern. Beautiful night. Xavier Betts had the
Triggered.
long touchdown. Chancellor Brewington blowing up people, right? In
Oh,
motion, man.
Adrian Martinez had stuff
Just-
in his teeth because he had broke his jaw the week before.
The amount of things that went right in that game that really didn't ever go right again in the Scott Frost era were amazing. So
Jack, do you remember when you were on the show on Monday? Because I was gone. I was coming back from a marathon, but I was getting texts from people like, Jack is really laying into you on your radio show right now. And I was like, what are
Yeah.
you talking
I was
about?
talking about the Michigan. Yeah, I was talking about how they were gonna. Yeah,
Because I had already
I do.
said that they should fire Frost at that point in time. And you were like, Josh is going to look like a
Yeah.
big idiot.
yeah. I was just saying you're an a-hole, which you are. You know.
Well, I mean, that's hard to argue with that. Damn it, Jack. That was going to be my next pick. I thought it was gonna be
Man,
able to
what a
sneak
great
that one from
lineup!
you.
I love my lineup. I mean, and I know where the last one's gonna be. I win. This is over.
Oh,
I
okay.
won.
Interesting.
I'm not
That's
sure about
another one of those games where it's just like, think it's going to be this big jumping forward point, and then you go watch them against Minnesota the very next week, and they look like the same discombobulated, messed up team. Like,
God, they just they killed that Northwestern team. It was so nice.
Yeah, they
I was
really,
still a Pat
Jack, you're not
Fitzgerald
kidding. That is the high
It was
point
a
of the
Pat
Frost. I mean,
Fitzgerald
they
team, by the way,
destroyed them.
too. I was passionate about him too. You know.
Yeah, that is true. I'm gonna get my in my second to last pick, my penultimate pick, Jack. If you were, I'm gonna go with the Frost era as well. I'm gonna go with the first ever win. Give me the win over Minnesota.
That was
all the
my
way
other
back
one.
in
That's a good pick.
2018. And
That was my
how about
other
the
one.
fact this is the last win over Minnesota? Since 2016 or 2015, Nebraska's only beaten Minnesota one single time, and it was Scott Frost's first year. And they put it on them. They were going up and down the field. I know the defense didn't play
Ozigbo!
very well.
Ozigbo.
Yeah.
People forget Divine Ozigbo was still on the team then.
Yeah, he had 1,000 yards that year. Yeah, they killed him. That was a pretty easy last pick or at least last Scott Frost pick for me because not a whole lot of good wins in there.
All right.
John, your
I'm gonna-
last two.
I'm going to go a little off the board here with Bill Callahan.
Okay.
But this game was weirdly fun because Bill Callahan was so in his bag that day. But I'm going to pick 2006 Colorado. Now, this was after the A&M win,
We watched. Yeah.
and Nebraska just jumped into the top 25. But Bill Callahan decides to run like 5 trick plays.
Barry
in this
Turner.
game.
Barry Turner caught a touchdown, right?
Barry Turner caught a touchdown, but they did the one play where Zach Taylor's in the shotgun, and then he starts to throw his hands up like he doesn't know the play call and starts walking towards the sideline, and they snap it to, I can't remember who was, maybe it was Jackson. It takes off. It was just like Callahan was having so much fun that day because it was just like, I've got all these plays and I've got to empty them out of the bag, and they blew out Colorado. So I'm going to go 2006 Colorado.
I love it.
And then I am shocked. I mean, I know he had bigger wins in terms of ranked teams and all that other stuff,
I know what you're doing.
but 2008 Colorado, folks? I mean, the Alex Henry field goal, the Ndamukong Suh pick, the stadium is absolutely losing their minds. I mean, this is the best Bo win, in my opinion.
Wow,
Easily
really?
the best. And in terms of just the sheer thrill and the excitement in the
I didn't even have
crowd,
it on my list.
I can't believe that.
This is off the board for Jack. Jack,
How
that
do
is,
you-
I mean, it's one
Alex
of the last
Henry.
greats. Yeah, it's one of the last great stadiums.
And then Sue, he picks off Cody Hawkins and then steps on him on the way to the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 2 minutes of that game, this was one of the few times where people were like high-fiving and celebrating
It's a
in the
good
press
pick.
box.
It's definitely a good pick.
I
don't know why.
I'm gonna ruin the pick for John here, though. It's not even the best Bo Pelini Memorial Stadium win or atmosphere. Because that would be, since this category is filled, that's 2014 Miami, John.
Yeah, I have
I
it.
mean, that's good.
Oh.
That's good, but I mean, you beating a rival. I know it's
Good.
Miami. It was a great game, but
There were people fighting in the Starlight Lounge. The Reds got closed down. Randy Gregory was going to fight
Wow.
the
We're
entire
gonna
Miami offensive line. That was an electric.
We're gonna leave
atmosphere.
it was good. It was good. That's a good pick too.
We'll leave 2010 Missouri and 12 Wisconsin on the board.
But I think more
Wait.
people have more warm and fuzzies over 2008 Colorado than they do 2014 Miami.
2008 Colorado has two incredible moments with the field goal
I-
and then the pick six, and just sort of ragdolling in a very unique way.
And then how he throws the ball against the back of the
slams
end
it
zone
in.
and doesn't get penalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I mean,
one of those.
bro,
I was in South and South student section, and it was one of those. You ended up in a different row than you started during the field
I
goal.
was there
Like that
too.
was one of those. Oh my gosh, one of those great moments in time. That's a good pick, John. This is what my last one, right?
Your
Jack,
ultimate pick.
Jack, I'm thinking of you. I wrote down 4 Mike Riley games and only 4. 2016 Oregon, the Foster Farms Bowl, 2015 Michigan State, and in honor of Jack Mitchell and an argument that we got in that I don't even know if he remembers it that night, 2017 Purdue. A comeback win on the road.
I did not have that number 4.
Jack's like, come on, let's not fire Mike Riley. He's turning things around. That was his last win of his Husker career. Give me Mike Riley's last win, 2017 Purdue.
I thought you were going to take 16 Northwestern.
I honestly,
I
I did
had.
think I was at that game. But God, it's just not very good.
Great uniform game.
Great uniform. Yep, that was
Oh, the alternates. Jack, your last
Man,
pick.
I got a
Solich.
Solich game. Well, I wrote it down today as my number 2. I mean, my number 2 pick is still on the board for Solich.
Oh wow.
Behind
Really?
01 Notre Dame
Wait,
was
what?
my number 1.
Oh, okay.
I've got 2001 Notre Dame as my number 2.
Over the road game.
over to
I had 2000 Notre Dame would have been my second one.
yes, 2000 Notre
Oklahoma.
Dame, not 2001.
It's
Even
hard
with
because
the home game.
I was at 2001. I'm picking 2001.
That's fine.
I
That's fine.
don't know if
The
which one was,
2000 game, overtime, baby. That was a
No,
great
I know,
game.
but I was
That
Yeah.
was cool though. Notre Dame came to Lincoln for the first time.
Yeah.
College
yeah.
game day was there.
I would say this,
and-
Jack. That is, if you look at the photos from the stadium that night, I think that is the highest ratio ever of red shirts inside the stadium. There's like barely a speckle
The
of it is a
experience-
true red out.
It was it's an experience you don't get to have anymore, where it was just everything went according to plan the entire day.
They killed them. It was
Like,
just kind of a boring
I went to
game.
college game day in the morning. It beat the shit out of him at night. Eric
Oh,
Crouch,
man.
I think he threw a touchdown to like Aaron Galladay right away, ended this thing right away, and it was.
That's the last game before 9/11.
Thanks, John.
Thus pouring more cold water on this pick.
Anyway, I guess someone else can go now.
You might have just ruined your whole draft, Jack.
I
with
don't
that
under-
pick.
I'm supposed
by
to
the way-
follow 9/11.
Real quick, the other ones I considered 2000 Notre Dame would have been the next one that I picked. I'd considered. I also considered 99 Tennessee.
2000,
bowl game.
Jack. 2000 Fiesta Bowl. Yeah.
Nope, 99 Tennessee bowl game. And then the other one I considered actually was a kind of an odd one. 99 Texas A&M when they won 37 to 0. And
They killed him. Mike Brown.
Mike Brown did this. The coolest thing I've ever seen done after a play. Mike Brown did this. I will never.
Cool.
It was so.
The 90s were a different time.
I still remember 30 years ago, Mike Brown just did this after a play. It was the coolest thing I've. Mike Brown is the coolest player in Nebraska football history. I will take that to the grave. There's no one.
Made this all come across so uncool.
Mike Brown Mike Brown is the coolest player in Nebraska football history.
Oh. Shafe, bring us home. You got the Tom Osborne to finish it.
9/11 looking cool. Got a lot going on here. I mean, I don't think there's another pick for me here other than 1997 Tennessee. I mean, sorry, I just did the same thing that Jack
did. You
did.
did. 1998 Orange Bowl?
Yep, 98 Orange Bowl. Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famer, and Peyton Manning.
Yes,
a guy that, as a kid, even at that point, just didn't like Peyton Manning because it seemed like no one in Nebraska liked Peyton Manning. So it felt important to see Nebraska kind of beat him up, and statement win that allowed him to tie up that national championship. So I don't know that there's a regular season game somewhere in there for me. So I felt like I had to go with the bowl game there.
It's a good pick. Some ones that we left on the cutting room floor. So as Shea finishes up Tom Osborne, like all the Colorado games from the 90s, I thought for sure that one of you guys would have picked 92 or 94. I toyed
that was on my list. If I wouldn't have had the number one pick, I would have probably held it back, but I had to take the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
I think if we would have said only regular season games, I think our list would look really different.
Oh, much different.
Yeah.
There'd be I think because it ends up you just get a lot of end of year wins that you get to cap it off.
Yeah, I had
national titles.
Yeah, that's true.
90, yeah, for sure.
99 Colorado was one that I messed with in my head for the Frank Solich pick before I went ultimately with Kansas State. That game is one of the most memorable of my life just because of where we watched it, how everyone was so angry the entire time, and what ultimately ended up happening.
I would have taken 93 Oklahoma for Osborne if I had another pick.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
21-7.
The cold game.
The cold game. Trev Albert's getting hurt game. Yes.
I think I honestly considered hey, just take Osborne last and then use your pick on one of the Pacific games where Nebraska won by $1 billion. Because there's a chance that was the first game I ever attended. I don't honestly know, and that's one of those frustrating I have no history to be able to tie back to that. But so they just stand out to me as that's emblematic of Nebraska football of what the 90s were basically for regular season games.
A couple more before we get you guys out of here. Jordan brings up no 2003 Okie State love. I thought about 2010 Oklahoma State. Taylor Martinez, maybe best night as a passer. And John, for you, I mean, Jeff Sheldon says 1978 OU. Now, John, again, had the number one overall pick.
Right, yeah. I mean, that would have been there. Absolutely. Yeah. That would have been up there because that's Tom's another game I like to rewatch because, I mean, God, they hit good night. They hit hard that game. I mean, and everyone sees the John Rood hit, but they hit
our governor recovered it. People forget.
Governor recovered it. But yeah, that's a legendary one. Actually, one for me that's special to me is 1982 Missouri because I was there. That was the game where Randy Jostis cheap shotted Turner Gill, knocked him out of the game. Mike Rozier had a hip pointer, but still ran for 150 yards in the second half, and I was sitting in the north end zone. That's one of my favorite games ever that I attended. So not that it would have rated up here in the draft, but that's kind of a special one to me. Just remembering back, going to games. I didn't go. Most of the games I went to, they were all blowouts. They just killed everybody. But that was a fun one. I always remember that one.
Did you guys have any losses on your list?
Yes, I had the Texas loss in 2009 in the Big 12 title game, and I had the 2018 Ohio State loss for Scott Frost. Those were the first two that I wrote down.
I had 2006 Texas Memorial Stadium. Still my favorite fan experience in that stadium, even in a loss, just with the snow. Felt like a huge game. And then every touchdown had its own story inside the touchdown. Just an awesome game.
Yeah.
Despite the loss.
Despite the loss.
I had Georgia Southern. And Robbie and I had a hell of a Big Red overreaction that night.
Oh, man. And then the next day, John was?
Big dent in the side of the truck.
Oh, I was going to say September 11th. All right.
And that
is
too.
The,
And that, yes, thank you.
That is the
Oh,
Wang
no.
Nachos Husker Games draft. Boys, I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years. I'm so happy that we were able to make it happen. I'm happy that Jack was able to tell a story about the coolest thing ever being a fist into a palm.
I haven't heard a thing you guys have said. I've been Googling for a picture of that, so I don't know
Yeah.
what's happened at the end.
Are you allowed to do that on every third down, or is it just on 3 and outs?
No, that's it.
Mike Brown. This is the coolest thing I've
great
ever
question.
seen at a game.
Is this from Cobra Kai? Like, is that?
He might have started it. I don't know. Mike Brown. We need to get Mike
Ugh.
Brown on the podcast. He's amazing.
So cool.
So cool. I
John
agree.
Schaefer, thank you so much. This
Thanks,
was,
guys.
this
That was
a ton of
awesome.
fun.
Yep.
You
This was
bet.
a ton of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Jack and I are back for subscribers and for the public on Saturday morning for the Saturday Morning Coffee Show. And stay tuned. We have a lot of stuff going on this summer. For John, for Shay, for Jack, I'm Josh. Thanks for joining us tonight inside the ID Club. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.